Welcome to the Redefine Podcast. All right, welcome back to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I want to talk about a principle I call Blank Slate, Tabula Rasa. It's a principle that I've started teaching around 2022, so almost 2 years now. And it's one that I've had in my tool chest for years. I just named it Tabula Rasa or Blank Slate 2 years ago, but this is a principle that I've developed in myself throughout my adult life, and especially in my business life. Tabula Rasa means blank slate, and for me, it has been instrumental in helping me approach situations that are potentially very volatile, or really navigate through the adversities and the challenges that we all inevitably will face in life, in business, and just on this journey of being a human being. And so I wanted to share that with you today because I feel like, in my observation, and of course that observation might be skewed, but in my observation, I feel like the world has become or gotten or continues to get, excuse me, that's even better. I feel like the world has continued to get more and more reactive, and for whatever reason that is, like it could be the internet. My guess is social media and the internet, and how social media really immediately validates your emotional state when you share it out there. But I mean, yeah, that could be a conversation for another episode. We can really examine that, and take a deep dive into that particular subject. But for today, I want to give you a tool that will help you navigate these reactive states, because reactive states, especially negative reactive states, can be very, very detrimental, right? It can be detrimental to your business for sure, because you're making decisions in an emotional state, and you're having conversations in an emotional state. But of course, in life in general, right? Like the wake of your reactive state, the fallout as a result of a reactive state can be really, really bad. You can hurt a lot of people around you, and more people, especially if you're super reactive and you don't have it in check, people will really not want to be around you, and if they have to be around you, they will resent you for the rest of their lives. Now, the observation people have shared this with me over the years, that they've observed about me, that I'm pretty even keel, right? Like I'm pretty relaxed, I'm pretty low key, I'm pretty level headed, and they notice that it takes a lot to get a rise out of me, and I will absolutely agree, but it's only because I've worked on it, right? I've worked on it over the years with this principle called blank slate, and I'm going to get into that in just a second. Naturally, I am actually very hot headed, right? Yes, I am even keel now, and I try to be as even keel as possible, especially when I'm out in public, or especially when I'm speaking or doing coaching sessions and things like that, right? But my base programming, so to speak, is to be very hot-headed. I come from a long line of hot-headed people, right? And so that self-awareness really, for me, because I knew that, I put working on that reactiveness at the top of my list of things to work on personally, because again, it could be very detrimental not only to my life experience, but to my business efforts. Right? People look up to me. People turn to me for guidance and for coaching and for mentoring. And so if I'm always in a reactive state, that makes my impact much less effective, right? Well, that just makes me a much less effective leader and a much less effective mentor and guide and coach. Because why would anybody want to be coached by somebody who's completely reactive? Why would anybody want to be mentored and follow a leader who can't control his own emotional states, right? So it's something that I've worked on a lot over the years, and I still work on it today. Of course, like it's not, I'm not perfect. I'm not Gandhi. I'm not Yoda, right? And I would even Yoda. Sorry, fictional example. I'm not the Dalai Lama, right? Like, and even then, I'm sure those individuals would say that they're still working on it and that they're not perfect. So I do have my moments, but being in continual work, like doing the work on myself to grow and improve these things, allows me to really have a much better handle on it than I've observed in a lot of people that I interact with, to be honest. So where does all this reactiveness come from? I think it comes from primarily the narrative, right? Well, okay, so it comes from not being centered, not being present, not being mindful and in the moment, right? Because if you're not present, then you're not aware that of your own emotional state going into a situation. You're not in a space to be able to self-regulate because if you're not centered, if you're not present, if you're not mindful, then you're largely going to be on autopilot. And we all know autopilot is very reactive, right? So if you're on autopilot stepping into a potentially volatile situation or conversation or interaction, then that autopilot is going to kick in and be reactive, number one, but also it will weave and create a narrative in your head that continues to feed that particular reactive state, right? That particular emotional state. So it's the not being present as well as the narrative that you hold about the particular situation, and that becomes a feedback loop to continue to elevate that reactive state. So where tabula rasa or blank slates comes in is that, first of all, you always work on being mindful, right? Always work on being present and in the moment and self-aware, especially when you know you're stepping into a potentially volatile situation or conversation or interaction. That allows you to really take a step before you react, right? Take that pause, that even like nanosecond mental pause before you react, because being in the moment, being mindful, then you've disengaged that autopilot. Then as the situation unfolds or as the interaction unfolds, if you start to feel reactive, understand that the narrative that you're telling yourself, the story that you're telling yourself about that situation could potentially be feeding that reactive state, right? So again, take a step back, take even a nanosecond, and realize that there are other narratives, there are other perspectives beyond the one that you're telling yourself at that moment. And that's why having a blank slate, stepping into the situation with a blank slate, is super, super important, because you have like practicing not having any judgment about anything before you go into it will really allow you to actively create and write a narrative about that situation that is more positive, that will create a more positive outcome, as opposed to if you go into it with an existing judgment, the narrative will then again feed that autopilot reactive state. Not very technically complicated, right? It's a super simple principle. Just go in it without any judgment and without any pre-existing story, and you'll be able to rewrite the story or create a narrative that will have a more beneficial outcome. Simple, difficult, of course. It's not easy. Simple, yes, it's not easy. It's something that I, as I said earlier, have worked on for many, many years, and I continue to cultivate within myself, because yeah, I mean it's ongoing, right? It's ongoing. The world gives us a lot to be reactive about, and so if we make sure we have this blank slate tool, this tabula rasa, this principle in our toolbox, we can continue to cultivate this ability to not be so reactive. It's so important and so important. That's how things blow up out of proportion, right? That's how arguments blow up out of proportion. That's how businesses blow up, right? Like I've seen people completely blow up their own business, their own organization, because they haven't taken the time to develop this awareness and this discipline around being non-reactive. All right. One thing you can do, and I understand, because we all are all human, and I'm not always perfect, I'm not always in control. I sometimes do, very rarely, but I sometimes do lose it. And of course, if alcohol is involved, then everything's out the window, right? Like forget about it, everything's off the table. But generally, those rare occasions when I do find myself starting to lose it, the easiest thing, the quickest thing you could do is just give space before you react, before you respond, before you tell yourself whatever narrative that pulls you further into the reactive state. Just pause and take breaths, like deep breaths, and 5 seconds is really all you need to change the trajectory of your mindset. even a very volatile and emotional mindset. Just take 5 seconds, count down, count backwards from five, and just take deep breaths. And that will allow you to get recentered. That will allow you to get present again, and become more mindful of the situation, as opposed to being pulled into the reactive state. So again, blank slate, super, super important. And that, at the essence, is what redefine is all about, right? Because yes, you can go into it and you can have all these narratives and stories about a situation and feel strongly about it, and realize then that, okay, so what's the redefinition, right? Like if this is causing me to feel a certain way and react a certain way, and Ronnie isn't reacting this way necessarily, or other people aren't necessarily reacting this way necessarily, then maybe there's a way that I can redefine this situation and redefine this circumstance, or this interaction, or this challenge that I'm facing right now, so that I'm not so reactive about it, so that it doesn't affect me in a way that causes me to behave negatively and therefore create further negative outcomes, right? Really, really important. Redefine, at the base of the ability to be able to redefine self, redefine situations, redefine circumstances and experiences. The very base of redefine is blank slate, because you can't redefine anything. Actually, you can't redefine anything if you're holding on tightly to a specific narrative. And a lot of our narratives, especially in an emotional states and reactive states, are really our judgments, right? Blank slate will allow us to redefine, and be having that ability to redefine will really allow us to be much more level-headed, make smarter decisions, and be on a more even keel. So hopefully that helps. I think I mentioned this at the beginning. I lost track of whether I did or not. There's a lot of things in the world to be reactive towards, and that really want to pull you into a reactive state. For me, there's been a lot of volatility in my business, in the company that I'm partnered with, and really in life as a result, because of all that's happening in business. Financially, there's a lot of volatility as well. And so, it would be easy for me to continue to be in a reactive state, but I choose to redefine that. I choose to use everything and see everything with a blank slate, so that I can make the best decisions moving forward. Because especially in volatile times, we have to make the most level-headed decisions as possible, and we cannot do that if we are in a reactive state. We can only do that if we have a blank slate and are willing to redefine things in a way that allows us to make rational and logical decisions. All right. Okay. So hopefully that helps. Of course, if you have any questions, come join us. Actually, I haven't asked you this in a while. Join us in the Redefine community. These are the kinds of topics and more, of course, that we can discuss there on the Redefine community. It's a community for you to ask questions, to find support, especially if you're going through challenging times, right? That's really the primary goal of that community. So come join us if you haven't yet. It's facebook.com/groups/redefine community. And of course, more from me, in the next one. So until then, be well, be safe. We'll see you in the next episode.